afternoon and welcome to the fourth instalment of Netsafe's on Netsafe Live Online, series of live broadcasts we've put together to support the education sector over the past month or so. So far, we've had a broad general questions and answer session. We've had a session that's focused on school leaders and one where we've talked directly about student involvement alongside our fantastic Youth Action Squad. And today we're going to focus on teachers themselves. You can find all of those previous sessions that I just mentioned and this one once we've put it together and edited it up on our YouTube channel. Just search for Netsafe New Zealand. I'm going to hand you over now to Pauline Spence, who is standing by, our education advisor, and she'll be able to introduce our special guest Lisa Byers from Tainui School in Dunedin. Pauline, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Sean. Good as gold. I'm not sure what the weather's like up where you are, but I can guarantee and let everybody know that down here in central Otago, it's pretty jolly chilly and rainy.
It's beautiful in Auckland, as it always is.
Look, as Sean mentioned, we've been running a series of sessions on Facebook Live, looking at how schools can support young people as they're online and exploring this online space. We thought it would be really neat to wrap up this series, focusing in on our teachers, those fantastic people who do such an amazing job supporting our young people. Today, we're really lucky. Our guest is Lisa Byers, who's a middle school leader at Tainui School. Kia ora, Lisa.
Kia ora. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thanks so much. I know how precious time is. Being a teacher myself, I know that every moment is precious. So we really appreciate you putting aside a little bit of time for us today. Look, we've got a few questions that people have asked in Netsafe over the last couple of weeks that we'd love to get your input on. But I also know that people watching are going to have questions as well. So if you are watching and you've got a question that you'd like either Lisa or I to answer, please feel free to either flick us an email at education@netsafe.org.nz or just pop a question in the comments and we will certainly aim to get to those today. Look, you're an amazing teacher in a fabulous primary school. Lisa, you know, we often hear about all the challenges young people face online, especially our teens and our tweens. You know, working in a primary school, what are you seeing? What sort of challenges are young people facing when they're out there online?
Well, we all see a range of things depending on, you know, within our own family, within our own classes and across schools. So the biggest thing I notice is that many children are consumers of technology. So as teachers, we're encouraging them to be creators, to use technology for a purpose within an authentic context. So sometimes there's a mismatch between digital natives, kids that have grown up with this, just using it or being consumers, depending on what other people are uploading or sharing or creating. So I notice a big mismatch with that. And we often hear people say, oh, they're such whizzes at this and they're really good at doing this and they can do all of these things. And sometimes we think, oh, you know, we're upskilling alongside them or sometimes even learning or experiencing through experiences. So I guess as teachers, sometimes we think we need to be experts and we can be a little bit fearful of those things. And I would encourage teachers not to be fearful of those things. I would encourage them to have authentic context and to also trust their knowledge about what they know about kids and learning and things like that. So they can bring all of those rich experiences to an online, you know, digital world. So that would be a big mismatch, you know, like something I notice.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned about, you know, teachers feeling like they don't have the knowledge or the expertise to be able to support young people in this space. And it's interesting having conversations with teachers and parents and saying, you know, it's about just demystifying that belief that we don't have the knowledge and actually going, you know, we don't have to be experts in technology. We have to be experts in young people, you know, and as teachers we are. And so to fall back on things that we know and that we feel really comfortable with. You're a parent as well of teenage boys. Do you see a difference between what your boys are involved with online and what some of your students are doing in that online space?
Sometimes I think I get a bit concerned as a parent and as a teacher that my children are teenage children, but some of the children that I'm teaching are experiencing similar things and enjoying similar things that they are wanting, that they are doing. So sometimes there's that age appropriateness isn't there for all of our families, within our community. So sometimes as teachers, children bring conversations into the classroom that we might not be wanting to talk about. That concerns me. I have one son who's a creator and I have one son that's a user. So I don't think that they'll ever really swap their roles in that, so
yeah,
I guess kids are like that as well, in a way. But yeah, so, these children that we're teaching love, using various apps like Minecraft. Some of them will be using Fortnite even though it has an R rating. So, they're gaming and, in games that would be R rated or M rated. So we just have to know that that's there, but that doesn't mean, it's like anything. We can have those conversations about what is safe and how we be safe, but we can't change those things. So I think we just have to provide the best experiences we can for the kids and make good choices about the decisions we make about what we want and how we want them to use apps, devices or platforms within our classrooms.
Yeah. Hey, look, you've been an earlier adopter of technology, and technology became a key tool within your classroom really early on. Because of that, you also noticed a lot of the challenges young people were facing when they were using these platforms and devices in different ways. Mm-hmm. What sort of things have you done within your classroom and within your teaching career that support young people in terms of online safety? Anything that sort of jumps out and goes, that was a really important or key thing that I tried and it was successful?
I think the messages that we give on online safety need to be regular. I think that with whatever you're using, you need to be reinforcing certain messages around passwords, around what's the first thing that people see when you're online, values-based things as well as skills-based things. So, we have processes on how we go about doing it and skills that we need to be able to teach and learn to be able to use something. But alongside that, there's a whole lot of values about what is the right thing to do, how we're using it, what's the purpose of it, those sorts of things. You can teach them, things along the way. I have several things that I do regularly. Whenever I look at an EARL, we talk about how do we know that this is a safe site? What clues have we got that it can be trusted? Can we check it somewhere else? There's a lot on Common Sense Media, and I would encourage teachers who are a little bit unsure or to go into there. And there's also great resources like Netsafe that have really robust and sound advice and knowledge that we can trust as teachers, plus each other. There's so many experts out there that have lots of tips and tricks and things. But for me, the biggest thing is, what is it that people are seeing? What is it what I want them to see? And I just find questions are the most important thing, like about with what you're doing. And it's really hard to think of a context just off the top of my head. But generally it would be around things like, what is the purpose of this? So the authentic context. If you've got key points for where you are checking in with the children about like sharing, doing collaborative stuff, the teachers are really good at taking something that they know works in another area, say for example the 4 C's, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity and communication, and transferring those skills and knowledges to other contexts. And being online is just one of those things that we can use those 4 things. And so if you have things that that work for you, in one context, you'll find that that will transfer into another because it'll fit with the culture that you've created within your classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and often the conversations that I have with schools, you know, teachers' lives are busy, you know, and there's no space to add anything extra to the curriculum. So it's exactly as you've identified, you know, looking and going, okay, what frameworks are already in place? What am I already doing that is going to help develop those skills, attitudes, values, and knowledge that young people need? You know, key competencies, you know, managing self, thinking, all those things. It's that understanding that the online space is another place that kids go to.
Yes.
To hang out and communicate. And those values or competencies that we want young people to exhibit in our face-to-face and within our classroom environment, we want them to carry those with them when they go downtown to another country or where they go online. And so it is about, exactly as you said, not adding anything new, but looking and saying, what are we doing already and what does it look like? And some of it's just about demystifying, you know, what goes on within this space.
I'd also encourage teachers, you know, all of those things are so important, and they're going to be the things that it doesn't matter what you're using that will carry your children, you know, through. So whether you're using robots, whether you're using an app or, you know, whatever. I think the cleaners are about to come in, so hopefully they won't. I'll just give them a wee sign to say, no, he's not looking. So the other thing, sorry, I'm just online on a, thank you. He's given me the thumbs up, so he's going to be really quiet. Thank you. So I'll just say, get my train of thought back. The other thing I would say is to know what you want to, you know, like within your school, what is it that you do, and those messages. You mentioned key competencies. Lots of schools have their own versions of how they present that. They have their sayings for their school. You know, whether it's together everyone achieves more, or act as achievers, loving learning, or whether it's flourishing and helpfulness, or whatever it is. So those things will work well with that as well. But the other thing is, what are you going to do if something does go wrong? Because we always hear about the worst things at a national level, but every day there'll be things that children might say, whether it's happened at home or whether it's happened between one another. So I would encourage teachers to have some things that they, you know, they're wee safeties within their class. So, you know, we can always just close the screen and let someone know. You know, we don't, you know, that, and then you can decide how you want to, depending on the severity of it, because, you know, some children will be, what offends some children will not offend others, you know, and what is, you know, So I think as teachers, we need to have some questions and some backups about what we might do if the worst that we imagine happens. Most of the time, if we're using something appropriately or on a recognised form of platform, then most of the time that doesn't happen. It tends to be if there's free sort of stuff or the odd pop-up, you know. So, I mean, I've got some ideas for teachers about things that they can do for that if we want to talk about that later. But generally, it would just be, how do you manage behaviour within your class, and how do you provide reassurance, and then how do you keep yourself and the children safe within your school? And most of those things will come down to what works for the child as well, but also within your school system and for you as a person and in your class. So.
And I think that's really important, you know, making it fit within each context. You know, and it brings nicely to, you know, say use agreements. You know, schools often download those from wherever, print them, school, young people sign them, parents sign them, they come back to school, they're kind of forgotten about. You know, and it comes down to involving young people in that process, having the conversation, putting a plan in place, setting expectations, but doing it with them, not to them.
I'm not a big one for punishment either, because I personally think that doesn't always send I'd rather it be pastoral or restorative, because otherwise, you know, children might take a risk and they're being brave and something doesn't go right, and then that might put them off wanting to be more creative. And I sometimes think that some children might not always go down that path, but I just think if you make an environment of fear, then they're less likely to perhaps be as honest if something does go wrong for them further down the track even, So I'm really one for having robust things around them and that scaffolding to help prevent that and support it if something does, not go to plan, so to speak.
Yeah, and it ties in nicely with some of our research that our Netsafe research team had done recently. And, they found that 34% of young people don't talk to anybody when stuff goes wrong. And so it's really important that we are that non-judgmental safe place. So really important about that. Looking at the time, and we've gone a little over, but I wanted to ask you one quick question. I could stand here talking here for hours about this with you, and it would be neat if we had an opportunity to pick up this conversation at another time. But what would be, one key piece of information or advice you would give to a new teacher who's perhaps, starting out thinking, okay, online safety is something I haven't thought about before, but I need to be thinking about? What's one thing, perhaps one place they could start?
Well, there's Netsafe is one place you can start, but I would also just ask yourself, trust yourself, look at the people around you. If it's not within your school or your associate teacher, then maybe it might be someone who's come through, and ask them what they're doing, and then also trust yourself to know what feels right for you, your school and your class, and just continually keep revisiting, reestablishing, and making it really normal to be thinking critically about being safe online.
Hey, thanks so much for this afternoon, Lisa. I know your time is precious, as I said earlier. Look, for those people watching, this Facebook session will be available on our website, on our Facebook page soon, and also on Netsafe's YouTube channel. Just a reminder that Netsafe's education team is here to help in any school at any time. Either go to our Netsafe Schools website or flick us a quick email at education@netsafe.org.nz, and one of the team will connect with you. Also pop onto our website, our Netsafe Schools website, whole framework to support schools looking to develop online safety within their school, resources, tools, give good guidance and advice there as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and for joining us over the last 4 sessions. Hopefully to see you again in the future. Haere rā.